Ladies and gentlemen, after much speculation as to whether or not this movie would ruin the perfect ending of Logan, I can confirm that in the very first scene of Deadpool and Wolverine, Deadpool digs up that Logan's corpse and basically desecrates his remains. I wish I was kidding. If that's not a perfect representation of what modern Disney Marvel represents, then I don't know what is. Let's discuss.
Our content sucks. Our content sucks.
I watch so you don't have to.
Before I get started, I'd like to kindly ask that you hit the like button and please subscribe to the channel for more content just like this.
Come on. Do it. Do it!
Wolverine is recovering from his injuries when he crosses paths with a loudmouth Deadpool. They team up to defeat a common enemy. I'm not kidding when I say that might be the worst synopsis of a movie that I've ever read off of Google. It doesn't even really accurately describe the plot of this movie. Then again, there's not much of a plot to speak of, so that might be the problem. It's kind of hard to put a movie into words that is basically a series of skits held together by an incredibly thin story. Deadpool and Wolverine at its core is the very definition of throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks. Listen, I know that I was hard on this movie even before its release, and that's mostly because everything I was hearing about it was sending up red flags everywhere. And the thing about red flags is, 9 times out of 10, there's a reason that you're seeing them. Especially when they surround a project like this one from a company who has a track record of putting in minimal effort with their content.
Something very familiar about all this.
It's kind of ironic that Deadpool's catchphrase is maximum effort, when the creative team around him feels like they're doing the exact opposite. The truth is that Deadpool and Wolverine ended up being pretty much exactly what I thought it was going to be. Watching this movie was like attending the most disrespectful funeral ever. And no, not a funeral for the MCU. That would have been welcomed. No, this was a funeral for the pre-Disney Marvel films that a lot of us have always enjoyed, or that some of you have come to enjoy over the years. And that's not to say that all these movies were flawless, but at the very least they were a representation of a time when the comic book movie market wasn't so oversaturated. And most of them at the very least felt unique from each other, unlike most of the schlock that we get now. But ever since Disney bought out its competition just a few years back, they've been waiting for this moment. They saw this as an opportunity to finally put their rivals down for good.
Get what you deserve!
To piss on the ashes of what companies like 20th Century Fox did without them. And no, a disingenuous end credits montage is not going to distract me from what's really going on here. That being, throughout the course of Deadpool and Wolverine's approximate 2-hour runtime, on more than one occasion, Disney's Deadpool took the opportunity to tell all of us how much of a joke these other Marvel films were. There's also literal lines of dialogue about how the MCU is superior, and how everyone is now fortunate to be included in such a thriving brand like the MCU, even if they aren't at their peak anymore. This is not a proper send-off for the 20th Century Fox universe, like some people were hoping. There is a literal multiverse dumping ground in this movie called The Void, that is basically referred to as a trash heap for those undesirable non-Disney characters. And that is where you will find a lot of these much talked about cameos, and a lot of characters that some people might hold near and dear to their heart. And this is how Disney chose to incorporate them.
Oh, there's a big surprise!
Now there was a time where seeing some of these characters on screen again, one in particular, would have really excited me. But that time is long gone now, especially since we've gotten to the point where these characters are basically being turned into punchlines. Basically cheap nostalgia bait just for the sake of popping a box office number. I'm sorry Disney, but I will not be fooled by that again as much as you may try.
It fooled me, we can't get fooled again.
The thing is that it will probably work for a lot of people, and you know what, I'm happy for those people. But the sad reality is that all this is going to do is breed more movies that rely heavily on cameos and Easter eggs, all in an effort to disguise the fact that apparently nobody knows how to tell a proper story anymore. Now, in their defense, they did at least try to tell a story, and I use the term try very loosely. This movie has the kind of plot that a 10-year-old playing with his action figures would come up with. In fact, that's actually a pretty accurate description when you consider that all this movie really is an IP flex. In my previous video on the final trailer of this film, I talked about how they have a very clear opportunity to inject some heart into this film if they choose to. That is, of course, if they could find a way to not let everything get drowned out by all the cameos and comedy. And the whole X-23 aspect of this film played out pretty much how I said it would, only it was a lot less emotionally impactful. And why? Because their goal wasn't to make her presence resonate like it should have coming out of Logan. No, she was basically just another cameo, just there to deliver one quick line of dialogue that somehow does exactly what it needs to do, because for some reason this movie doesn't have time to establish anything properly.
Don't waste my motherfucking time!
Listen, Hugh Jackman is my Wolverine, obviously. He's the only Wolverine. I will love and respect him forever for the countless hours of entertainment that he supplied us already. But I can't for the life of me figure out why he would come back for something like this after such a powerful send-off he received with Logan. I know he needs some money after a divorce and all that, but damn, is he that desperate for a paycheck? I'm gonna ask this question, and even if you like the movie, I want you to answer honestly. What did Hugh coming back for this movie add to the legacy of his portrayal of Wolverine? The answer is nothing.
Not a damn thing!
Like I said many times before this movie even came out, it's like they brought him back just to put him in the suit and nothing more. And if that's not cringe enough, they made him being in the suit a part of his actual character arc. And at least if you're going to make a big deal about the suit, why not take the time to make it right? Say what you will about the overall design of the suit, but the mask he eventually wears, and Hugh's arms apparently, were CGI. Would it have been that difficult to give us a practical mask after giving us this whole song and dance about finally giving the fans what they want? Have you ever heard anything more Disney Marvel than a CGI Wolverine mask? On top of what ultimately ends up being his underwhelming appearance, I learned absolutely nothing about this new Wolverine. He's just like every other Wolverine, except more of a failure. Sure, he gets a redemption arc, but as I already mentioned, it doesn't feel earned.
How can you not care?
Like this.
At the end of Logan, I was an emotional wreck, having just seen the conclusion of this character's arc that I grew up watching. That movie just hit for me on another level like movies should. Meanwhile, I felt next to nothing watching Hugh play the character this time around because it means so much less. You can tell that he's only there for fan service and not to further a story. And again, this is not a reflection on Hugh's performance. He will always be able to effortlessly fall back into this role that he made. But at the end of the day, again, it all means nothing because they don't give me a reason to care other than him just being there. As far as Deadpool goes, listen, Ryan Reynolds obviously was born to play this role. And I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't chuckle from time to time throughout this movie at some of the typical Deadpool humor. But some of it also made me feel like the shtick has kind of run its course. I just don't think it has the same impact anymore, especially when the character's being used as a vessel to initiate yet another MCU circle jerk.
No, don't like that.
It kind of kills the vibe when he's been absorbed into this giant cinematic universe that doesn't know its from a hole in the ground creatively anymore. As for the villain of this movie, I mean, if you need any more proof that this is an MCU project, just look at the villain. Just as forgettable as pretty much every other villain that's ever came out of this universe. She pretty much amounts to evil Professor X without any real purpose. The visuals are just as uninspired as you would expect from a modern comic book movie. Monotone, bland, boring, and forgettable. Even the fight sequences, which you would think would be a standout for a movie like this, left something to be desired. If Deadpool and Wolverine fighting doesn't feel as epic as it should, after all this time you had us waiting for that confrontation, then something is wrong. In fact, a lot of the fight scenes looked very fake to me, and either completely CGI or possibly digitally altered after the fact. It kind of makes you wonder how a company with almost unlimited resources can consistently make things that look so cheap.
What the hell am I looking at? When does this happen in the movie?
Bottom line, I know a lot of people are going to have fun with this movie, and that's fine. Some may even tell me that I don't know how to have fun because I didn't enjoy it. It wouldn't be the first time I heard that. But I would respond to that fun and substance do not have to be mutually exclusive, as some people suggest. I mean, is it too much to ask for both? Apparently, in the world of the MCU, it is. To me, Deadpool and Wolverine was a mostly frustrating experience when you consider the potential of what could have been. Instead, we get another shallow mess of a movie that feels like it was thrown together last minute to save a dying franchise. And that's why I'm going to give Deadpool and Wolverine the Angry Rocky.
That's right, it stinks! Y'all be cool. Right on.